Previously on Unscripted.
How did newspaper pages from the Montreal Gazette from 2006 end up inside my ceiling? These are questions that I'm going to think about for a long time.
Did you look through the newspaper to see if the Canadians won the night before?
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, so today we're going to talk about our favorite movie quotes. But before we get to that, last time we spoke, you told me two stories, and they've been bothering me ever since. Because I still don't understand how an old newspaper got into your floor or ceiling, and I don't know whose keys those were that were at your house. So I have to ask you if you figured out either of those situations.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Josh. the story, the newspaper in the ceiling, like, honestly, will never know. Like, I don't ever think I'll know what happened. I don't have any expectation that I will ever know. But the keys is a weird thing. So it's really all about the power of the podcast. The power of the podcast. Like, it's amazing.
Finally, this podcast is actually useful for something.
My uncle called me and he's like, I just listened to your podcast. I'm like, great. I know he listens every episode. He goes, I know about those keys. They're mine.
That's hilarious.
So the thing is, at one point this year, he's like, I want to give you a set of my keys. So I'm like, okay. And then when I went to get them, that time that he was going to give them to me, he couldn't find all the keys. He didn't have them ready for me. So he said, no problem. You'll give them to me next time. And then he gave them to me and I just completely forgot. And I threw them in the bin with all of our keys. Like, I didn't even remember that I had them. So I sent him a picture of the keys. He goes, I think those are either my keys or like my grandmother's old keys, like somehow. That's what he thought, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And I sent him the picture of the keys, and he's like, yeah, those are my keys. Those are the ones I gave you.
It's not the first time your uncle has come through, because you may recall about a year ago or more, I was having some trouble with a bottle of olive oil that would always drip and make a mess everywhere, and your uncle had the solution. It's one of those plastic, containers that you get takeout food in. You put that underneath your olive oil bottle, and then everything drips in there, and it doesn't make a mess in your cupboard. So your uncle's a genius.
Right. Anyways, the podcast came through. He listened. We found out about the keys. Now I remember that I do have an extra set of keys from my uncle's place, and all is well. All is well. Like, with the key situation, we can put that to bed forever.
Okay, well, speaking of the podcast and listeners, do we have any listener mail?
Mailbag.
Last episode we did songs with rain in the title.
I remember, and there's been a lot of rain since we did that.
Oh my God. So first of all, like I just told you before we hit record, like on Thursday night, we had a tornado warning here. Like, I got my phone beeped, like emergency alert.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too, to me.
It happened 3 times in a row, like 3:02, 3:05, and 3:12 p.m. There was alerts on saying, like, take shelter, like serious, really ominous warnings, like take shelter, and the sky looked, like I told you, it was the scariest thing I ever saw. That black sky was like out of a movie. So Jason from Montreal, did I ever get caught in the rain? This is like Tuesday, because we've had rain nonstop. So he's like, did I ever get caught in the rain last Tuesday afternoon? So here are some of my faves that fit this category. Rain Down on Me by Blue Rodeo, A Place in the Rain, Joe Jackson, A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan. And covered by Brian Ferry, he mentions, which is actually a really great cover. Stephanie from Montreal, Fire and Rain, James Taylor, Fool in the Rain, Led Zeppelin, The Rain Song, Led Zeppelin, Have You Ever Seen the Rain, CCR, Red Rain by Peter Gabriel, and then a little shout out for Kermit the Frog, The Rainbow Connection from the Muppet movies.
Oh, I love that song, and I completely forgot about it.
Me too, but I told you I didn't count the word rainbow. But I mean, I think it's valid if you want to, Derek from Montreal, a song that we forgot, Josh. Rain King by Counting Crows.
Good one.
Yeah. Rain Down on Me, Blue Rodeo again. Between the Raindrops, Lifehouse. The Naked Rain by the Waltons. And November Rain, Guns N' Roses. I'm not a big Guns N' Roses guy. And of course, our good friend Jesse from Dallas, Texas. I knew he would like the John Hyatt that I had in my list. And of course, it's the first thing he mentioned, Feels Like Rain by John Hyatt. Who Will Stop the Rain and Have You Ever Seen the Rain, CCR. I Wish It Would Rain by The Temptations, Fire and Rain, James Taylor. Rainy Days and Mondays by The Carpenters. Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly. Purple Rain by Prince. And Rhythm of the Rain by The Cascades. Jesse's amazing because, he has Gene Kelly and Prince, in the same list. It's really fantastic, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, quite a range of musical knowledge.
Yeah. And then, of course, our new little segment. Okay, so first of all, I went to see a movie last night.
Okay.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
I went to see a baseball game last night.
Oh, you did? That's great. So I just want to tell you, because we've been talking a lot about like artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, we mention every episode. Mission Impossible, the villain, like the big villain that they're after, like the big, it's an artificial intelligence that's come to life and now controls everything. Like that's the story.
So it's like the Terminator.
It kind of is. Yeah, it kind of is. So I feel kind of weird doing ChatGPT every episode because it seems like every time we mention it, it's like we're giving it more power, and it's because soon it's going to become more sentient. But we could still ask it questions like, what are some of the best songs with rain in the title? Do you think that has any? I think that's pretty, innocent type of question to ask, right?
I would think so, but you never know.
So it answered, there are many great songs with rain in the title across various genres. Here are some popular ones. Purple Rain by Prince, November Rain by Guns N' Roses, Have You Ever Seen the Rain, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35 by Bob Dylan, Here Comes the Rain Again by the Eurythmics, I Wish It Would Rain by the Temptations, Rainy Night in Georgia by Brooke Benton. Do you know that song?
No, I don't.
Blame It on the Rain by Milli Vanilli.
I know that one.
That's bad. Rain by the Beatles, and Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by BJ Thomas. Like, we had most of those in our list.
Right.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say, because ChatGPT tries to pretend it's like a person. These are just a few examples, and there are many more songs with rain in the title. Each of these songs offers its own unique style and perspective on the theme of rain.
Okay, thanks for reading the listener mail. We'll be right back after this to talk about movie quotes.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Are you taking a month-long vacation in the stratosphere and you know how hard it is to hold your breath? Are you the cosmic kid in full costume dress? You've got a nice little place in the podcast universe with Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is your podcast for all things Bruce Springsteen fandom. We discuss his music, we talk about his tour, and we also talk to fans of other musicians and share their story of their passion, their fandom, and the way that their favorite artist music makes them feel. Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen fan podcast, is available wherever you find podcasts. Remember, there is magic in the night.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back.
We texted this week about potential topics, and you texted me how about favorite movie quotes? And I'm like, wow, let's. And my initial response was, let's do it, because obviously it's a huge category with a million possibilities. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have 10 different ones. There's a million movies out there. There's a million famous movie quotes, ones that are you like, I like, movies that you like. It's very. When I was doing my research, I realized this is incredibly subjective, because I could probably come up with 100 movie quotes if I wanted, right? And go over them all. It's really what appeals to you. So
I'm surprised we haven't done this topic already.
We could have. Yeah, we should have, right?
What have we been waiting for?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. We actually really should have done this already. When you texted it to me, I was like, my initial response was exactly that. I was like, why haven't we done this yet? And why didn't we actually have it on our list of possible topics? It was never even thought of. So how do you feel about your list? You strong?
Yeah, so this was an easy one to put together. There were a lot to choose from. I didn't have to, sometimes I have to struggle to find like a fifth one or whatever for whatever topic we're doing. But I didn't. Like I sort of knew which quotes I wanted to put in already as soon as I made the suggestion. You know, I did think of a few others that didn't make my list. They're on my honorable mentions. But yeah, I want to do things a little bit differently this episode. So instead of me telling you what movie they're from or who said the quote, I'm just going to say the quote and let's see if you can figure it out. I think you'll be able to figure it out for most of them.
Sure, and I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, Josh. I love it.
Now, again, most of mine I think you'll get right away. They're pretty obvious, but I think they might get a little bit more difficult as we get towards my number one.
I mean, looking at my list of 5, like you should get them all. You should.
Okay.
Like a normal person would, and I think you should.
Well, what's a normal person?
Well, because there's some, sci-fi stuff in my list, and you don't necessarily watch those.
Oh, I don't watch sci-fi movies.
But, so I think you might not get that one. But anyways, let's see how it goes. Like, honestly, let's see how it goes. This is going to be a really fun little exercise here. I love my 5 quotes. I absolutely love all my 5 quotes. I have honorable mentions that all could have made it in. And besides, I actually cut down my honorable mentions to just 3 because I had like 10 more movies that I could have pulled quotes from and I didn't. And what's interesting is all the 5 in my list, pretty much, there's multiple quotes from those movies that could be used. And often you're going to see that the quotes that I've used is sometimes not the most famous one from that movie, but it's just the one that I like the most, so.
Got it. Yes. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. So let's do it. You're going to start.
I'll start. So I'll just say the quote and then you'll tell me who said it and what movie it's from.
Number 5.
Number 5. How do you like them apples?
Do you like apples?
Yeah.
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?
Well, that's from Good Will Hunting.
Correct. Yes.
That's, the movie that put Ben Affleck and Matt Damon on the map. They won the Academy Award, I think, for Best Screenplay or Best Screenplay, I think. And yeah, I mean, they're huge megastars now, and that's what launched them, right?
Yeah, 1997, in case you forgot the year.
It's a tremendous movie, first of all. Like,
it's on
honestly.
TV all the time. It's one of those rewatchable movies.
100%. So, speaking of rewatchable movies, number 5 for me, I mean, I don't know if it's rewatchable for everybody, but it's definitely rewatchable for me and you. And the quote is, I'm laughing as I'm saying it. Breakfasts come and go, Renee, but Hartford, the whale, they only beat Vancouver once, maybe twice in a lifetime.
Breakfasts come and go, Renee. Now Hartford, the whale, hey, they only beat Vancouver once, maybe twice in a lifetime.
So that's from Mallrats. I do love that quote. I didn't include it in my list, but I should have.
Wasn't the VHS copy of this movie like stuck in your VCR? Or?
So it's not stuck in my VCR. I do have. You once purchased as a birthday gift for me that movie on VHS, which I still have, and I still have a VCR. And sometimes I don't do this anymore, but twice a year we have to change our clocks. And in order to fix the clock on my VCR, I actually have to play like at least a few seconds of something on VHS. And I always choose to play that movie. And that scene is very early in the movie. So
it's very early. It's right at the beginning.
So I watch that scene twice a year. I love that movie.
There's a great continuation of that quote, which kind of happens right after. Because she's so mad at him because he doesn't want to go for breakfast. He just wants to play Sega. And then he says, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned for Sega. Which actually, it maybe is the better quote. But we could just leave it at that. So in case people are wondering what the hell we're talking about, because this is probably the least known movie out of my 5. Mallrats, 1995. It's a comedy written by Kevin Smith. It's commonly known as part 2 of Kevin Smith's Trilogy, Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy.
Right.
Those are the first three, and of course he's made many movies since then.
Number 4.
Okay, next for me. You can't handle the truth.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Well, that's from A Few Good Men. I mean, that's really famous, obviously. I mean, when you look up the most famous movie quotes, it's right at the top, you know? Do you really like that movie?
I do. I really like that movie for a bunch of reasons. But one of the reasons I like it is because there's a few scenes where they're playing softball in that movie. I really like those scenes.
You know, it's amazing because Kevin Pollak is in that movie, right? He's one of the other lawyers, right?
That's right. Yes.
That's Moish from Mrs. Maisel.
Yes, he completely different character in this movie than he does play on Maisel.
Very good pick. So number 4 for me, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
See, I have no clue what that's from.
So I had a feeling that maybe that would stump you. So the more famous quote from that movie is, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." Does that tell you anything?
I'm gonna guess Star Wars, but I'm not sure.
No, you see, you're really like as Josh could be, right? Because
well, that's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You know more about stuff, but that you know about. But there's some other stuff that is out there in the world that millions of people know about that you're like, it's not Star Wars, it's The Princess Bride.
I never would have guessed that. I haven't seen the movie.
Right. Oh my God. What can I say about that? So actually, the interesting thing is the character who says that line, "You keep using that word, I don't think you think it means what you think it means," is Mandy Patinkin, is the actor. He's super young. He plays Inigo Montoya in the movie. So it's pretty cool because he's super young. And the Mandy Patinkin that you know from
Homeland.
Right? He's much older, right? So
Number 3.
Next for me. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Shoot, I don't think I know it. Hold on. It's a monster movie?
Maybe. I don't know if you would call it a monster movie, but
it sounds like
it's not one of those Marvel movies, if that's what you're wondering.
No. I know you wouldn't ever watch that, so it's that Jurassic Park?
Not Jurassic Park.
I don't know.
It's from Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, of course. You're right.
Where it's the first ghost that they catch, and they go into this hotel, and they come out with the ghost in their little contraption there that catches ghosts. And they come out of the ballroom, and they say to the hotel manager, "We came, we saw, we kicked its ass."
Do you like the Ghostbusters movie?
Oh, first of all, this Ghostbusters, the first one, is one of my favorite movies of all time.
You know, the more famous quote from that movie is "I am the keymaster, you are the gatekeeper." You know, that's maybe more famous.
I don't even care for that scene. And I watched this scene again yesterday. So then they're starting to tell the hotel manager what it's going to cost, that they captured the ghost, and it's $5,000, and he says he's not paying. And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll just put him back then." And then the manager agrees to pay, obviously.
Right. Okay. Even though they actually have no idea if the ghost really is in that contraption.
Oh, no, it was. They caught it. You can tell.
You can tell.
Because, the steam is coming out and it's dripping and they're all wet because they got slimed by the ghost.
Right. All right. So, number 3 for me. You're definitely going to get this one. You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I need more than that.
It's a baseball movie with kids.
The Sandlot?
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. So, the sort of main character of The Sandlot is Scotty Smalls. He's the new kid, right? And then he becomes friends with all the neighborhood kids who play baseball. And at first he has no idea how to play baseball. He doesn't know how to throw. He doesn't know how to bat, whatever. So every time he's the catcher, Ham Porter, tells him a couple of times when he does things that he can't believe that he doesn't know. He says, "You're killing me, Smalls." The first time in the movie when he says that is because they do a campfire and they make s'mores. And the kid does like, I don't know what s'mores is. So he's like, "You're killing me, Smalls." So the amazing thing is that at my work, my boss told me he was on this is like 5 years ago. My boss told me he's on a conference call. And one of the people on the call, who's in another department, his last name is Small. And then he said something, or I don't know the context of the meeting, but at one point my boss said, "You're killing me, Small." And then it was dead silence. No one on the call got the reference. No one knew what was going on. And my boss called me right after. He's like, "You're not going to believe what happened. I said this thing on a call and no one understood the joke. No one got the joke." Like, he was so annoyed.
Number 2.
Next for me. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You could, especially Ferris Bueller. Yeah, you could miss it.
Another one of my favorite movies.
I mean, I know that's probably one of your all-time favorites, and a great movie, and another movie that has tons of movie quotes that you can use. You know, like when he says he's the sausage king of Chicago. There's a lot of great quotes in that movie. So number 2 for me, you're not going to get this. I'm going to preface that. It involves 2 characters. The female says, "I love you." The male says, "I know."
I love you.
I know.
You're right. I have no idea what it's from.
I told my son Matthew that we were doing this category today, and I said, "What are some of your favorite movie quotes?" And he's like, "Well, obviously number 1 is 'I love you, I know.'"
I mean, that could be from like a dozen different movies.
It is from Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, 1980.
Okay.
So Han Solo, he's about to get frozen in carbonite, and there is tons of articles and commentary. I'm going to put a link to a YouTube video. I'll put a link to an article that discusses how basically Harrison Ford kind of rewrote the scene because they had it in the script a certain way, and he convinced George Lucas to do it a different way, and George Lucas didn't want to do it this way, and he said, no, and then they did it this way, and they did it like in a screen test, and the reaction was amazing, so they kept it in. But he said George Lucas was adamant that Harrison Ford was wrong.
So this was the second Star Wars?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I've actually seen this movie, but I don't remember that. So I've only seen it once.
Right. I mean, the more famous quote, again, like multiple quotes in the same movie, the most famous quote in this movie, and maybe probably one of the most famous in history, is when Darth Vader tells Luke Skywalker, "I am your father." I mean, that's been like done a million times. It's everywhere, you know? So that's the same movie, right? So
I once was playing a game. It wasn't Pictionary where you had to draw, but it was like Pictionary, except you had to act things out.
Yeah, okay.
And so I think I got like Darth Vader on my card. And I said that quote, the one you just said, and then my teammate got it.
Right. Okay, beautiful. I love it.
Number 1.
Okay, I'm at number 1. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
Oh my God. This is number 1?
Yes.
Give me the year. Do you know the year?
1984.
It's a John Cusack movie.
No, although I should have picked something he said in my list.
Jeez, I'm embarrassed that I don't know, Josh. Your number 1 movie quote, and I can't even tell you what it is. It's embarrassing.
Should I read it again?
No. Just tell me. Give me another clue or give me the answer.
I'll give you another quote from the same movie that made it to my honorable mentions. Except the quote I just read you is a guy saying it to a girl. The quote I'm going to read you now is the girl saying this. "You're terminated, f***er. That's got to give it away."
Well, is it The Terminator? But
yes, it is.
But you don't even like those movies. That's why I didn't really consider it, because I don't think you're a big fan. You know?
I like the first one.
Yeah. Actually,
And-
the second one is great too.
And so the quote I read you originally is Kyle Reese, he finds Sarah Connor and he's trying to explain to her what this Terminator is and what the Terminator needs to do, wants to do. And at this point, no one knows what the Terminator is. The police think it's just some guy who's like, you know, has a bulletproof vest and whatever.
Yeah.
And so Kyle Reese is trying to explain to Sarah Connor, it can't be bargained with, it can't be reasoned with, it doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead. And
Makes sense now.
I actually used this quote, not the whole quote. I was talking to a colleague of mine not that long ago, and we were talking about a coworker of ours. And I said, because my colleague asked me, well, maybe we could just ask her and she'll let us do it. And I said, Teresa, we can't ask her. She won't just do it, because if you've ever seen the movie Terminator, she can't be reasoned with and she can't be bargained with.
I love it. That's great. It's a quote that you should use in every day. Like, this is something that you could use all the time, especially in the work. Yeah. All right, Josh, you surprised me with your number one, Terminator. Oh, man. Didn't even expect that. Well, you're definitely going to get my number one. Like, I'm confident now in that. I'm confident in it. And it is two characters. Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. Iowa? I could have sworn it was heaven.
Is this heaven?
It's Iowa.
Iowa? Could have sworn it was heaven.
Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner.
You got it. It's from 1989. The movie was actually nominated for Best Picture in 1990, Josh. Could you imagine?
I can, yes.
It's one of my favorite movies ever. And again, you know, if you build it, they will come is obviously the much more famous line from this movie. But the almost ending with Kevin Costner's character who sees the young version of his father on the baseball field that they built, and then the father comes to him and says, "Is this heaven?" And then he says, "It's Iowa." He says, "I could swear it was heaven." Like, it's absolute movie magic right there. It's incredible. Like, that's just an incredible line.
You know, they actually built a baseball field and they play a game there every year now, a major league game every year.
I mean, it was cute the first time I saw it, but I mean, it's kind of weird, you know. I remember the first time they had like the Yankees players, they came out of the corn, right?
They'll probably do that again this year, but not Yankees. I guess it's two different teams.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Ah, that was great. I love your list. Good ones. You impressed me because you had some movies there that I didn't really think you would consider. You know, I had a few honorable mentions. One very, very quotable movie is Jerry Maguire. So
yes,
you had me at hello.
That's
I
also on my
absolutely love
honorable
that
mention
one.
list. Yeah,
and then of course, you know, Show Me the Money, but that's like, you know. And then of course Bull Durham. There's a million quotes in Bull Durham.
That's true.
The one that I pulled out here is, which is a great one. This is a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. That's the manager, you know, when he's pissed at the players. And then another great one that I use all the time is from A League of Their Own. You know, the movie about the Women's Baseball League?
Yeah, of course. With Madonna.
Tom Hanks. There's no crying in baseball. Like, that's just a classic.
Those are all good. Those are all good quotes.
And The Untouchables. I also had The Untouchables. I mean, this is a classic. Sean Connery. They pull a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
I actually know that quote, even though I don't think I've seen that movie.
You never saw The Untouchables?
I don't think I have.
My God, Josh. What are we going to do? Do you have any honorable mentions, or that's it?
Yeah, you said a couple of them, and I already said one of them. So there's only one other one. This is very obscure. It's from 1977. So I'll read you the quote. I don't think you're going to get it.
Okay.
I'm going to need a new car. A speedy car. Speedier than that.
Smokey and the Bandit?
Yes, I'm shocked that you got it.
Well, because you said 1977, so that narrowed down my field of guesses. But yeah,
That's
I mean,
when
that's not even a good
those
movie,
two guys are trying to convince Burt Reynolds to do a job for them. And he's like, well, I'm going to need a new car. So they give him some money. He's like, it's got to be a speedy car. They give him more money. And then he says, speedier than that. And then they give him more money.
That movie made like the black Trans Am like very cool, right? Isn't that what he had, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, we could probably do another episode of movie quotes, a whole other episode.
We could.
To be honest, because there's absolutely a million out there. I can't wait to like get some listener feedback of movie quotes because we'll probably get a wide variety of picks. You know, like know all the history of cinema. I mean, come on, we didn't even go. We didn't even like. There's no place like home. You know, The Wizard of Oz. Like you can go all the way back to like who knows, right? You can go back to the silent era. There was where the quotes were just written in type on the screen.
Yeah, listener mail might be long next episode.
I hope so. I hope it is.
Okay, we'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Do you know John Hyatt songs?
Maybe you know them from being covered by Roseanne Cash, Three Dog Night, the Neville Brothers, Emmylou Harris, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Jeff Healey, Bonnie Raitt, or literally hundreds of others.
Maybe you have some of his albums on your shelf, or in your cow-horned Cadillac right now.
I'm Jesse Jackson.
And I'm Sylvan Brough.
And we're going to dive in from A to Z. Join us on the Perfectly Good podcast.
We're going to discuss all of your favorites and uncover some forgotten gems, from Aces Up Your Sleeve to Zero House.
Rate and debate every John Hyatt song on the Perfectly Good podcast. Have a little faith.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
So, we sometimes talk about like bad stats. We had a whole episode about bad stats, or sometimes we talk about weird stats. This is just an interesting little factoid stat that I couldn't believe when I popped up on the screen. And it's still like hard to believe right now, even though like when you think about it, it makes sense. Like, so two of the oldest Major League Baseball teams that we have right now, like, are the Chicago Cubs and the New York Yankees. These teams have been around since over 100 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
On July 7th, the Chicago Cubs earned their first ever win in franchise history at Yankee Stadium.
That's unbelievable. That's not believable.
It is, because for almost 100 years, they never played each other, right?
Well, but they played each other way back, didn't they?
They played in the World Series against each other in the 1930s. Don't forget, American League and National League, they didn't play.
Right,
okay. So they played in the World Series in the 30s twice. Both times the Yankees won all their home games. So the Cubs never won at Yankee Stadium. And then they went through from the 30s till they started interleague play, which is like, 20 years ago, without ever having played each other, because, of course, the Cubs never made it to the World Series. And then when they did play interleague games, the Yankees won all their home games, and they didn't even always play at Yankee Stadium, right? They only played each other a handful of times. So only last week did the Cubs get their first ever win in Yankee Stadium, which I absolutely found a very fascinating stat.
It is fascinating.
When it came up on the screen on TSN, I was like, no, this is not right. Like, they have a huge mistake here, right? And then, of course, I looked it up. I'm like, no, it is right. Speaking of huge mistakes, you sent me a picture of your TV, which was all over Twitter the next day. Hundreds of people tweeted the same picture of the home run derby, where the ESPN person who's responsible for the text that goes up on the screen, the graphics, wrote that Vladimir Guerrero was only the second Cuban-born player ever to win the home run derby. No, there's two big mistakes in that.
Two.
First of all, he wasn't born in Cuba. He was born in Montreal. Second, he's not even Cuban. He's Dominican. So it's like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like incredible. But congratulations to Vlad on winning the home run derby. Like, that's a huge, huge accomplishment. Like, it's fun for the Toronto franchise to have a winner.
And then last night in his first game back since the All-Star break, he hit a home run that actually mattered.
Right. And going back to the All-Star game for a second, the uniforms were brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Horrendous. First of all, they should just let the players wear their actual uniforms like they used to do, I think only 3-4 years ago they used to do it, and then every year before that. So that's part of the fun of the All-Star game, where you're like, oh, this guy's on the Blue Jays, this guy's on the Expos, this guy, because I had no clue what team any of those players played on. In fact, I didn't even recognize half the names. But then to make matters worse, one of the teams was wearing black pants with like a teal shirt. Does anyone not realize that clashes? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it were black pants. I know they look like black pants. I think they were just like the darkest shade of navy blue that it could be.
Honestly, they look black to me.
I know. That's the whole thing. And so I texted you. I'm like, why are their pants so much darker than their shirt? Like, this doesn't make sense. I don't mind an all blue uniform, but come on, like, get with it, guys. And then the American League had this green thing, and just forget about it. It was no good. Like, it was no good. I know they want to sell jerseys. I know that's what they want to do. They just want to sell jerseys. But no.
It's all for marketing. No. In fact, I was at the game yesterday in Toronto, and at the souvenir shop, they had a bunch of T-shirts of all the players from the Jays who made the All-Star team, and it was that teal or green color. They were just T-shirts, not jerseys, and they had the player's name on the back, so you could get whichever.
Well, I bet you in Toronto, people are going to buy that Vlad Jr. shirt. They're going to.
Right, yeah. And so that's, if they didn't have a special uniform for the All-Star game, they couldn't even produce that T-shirt, and meaning they wouldn't sell the T-shirt, meaning they would make less money. It's all about money.
So I mean, I guess we're making fun of Major League Baseball, but like, they have the last laugh. If they're selling jerseys, they're selling jerseys.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to tell you one more thing before we leave.
What's that?
Have you heard of the Glastonbury Music Festival?
Yes, I have, actually.
I stumbled across something on Twitter, and then I watched and I listened to like an hour of a concert on YouTube. Rick Astley, you know Rick Astley?
I do. Never Gonna Give You Up.
So Rick Astley performed a 1-hour set with a British band, I believe, who are called the Blossoms. Maybe they're Australian. I'm not sure. I don't want to insult them. Never heard of them. But they played for 1 hour, and all they did is the songs of the Smiths.
That's cool.
Like all the songs that everyone knows. Like, and apparently Rick Astley is a huge Smiths fan, and it's absolutely incredible. I wish I was there. Honestly, I watched it on YouTube, but like super low quality because they don't let the people put it up. So like the official Glastonbury, you could see like one song, but there's people that have fan videos. Like I watched a lot of them. It's really pretty incredible if you're a fan of Rick Astley or if you're a fan of the Smiths. So
that's very cool. So I think you know that the NHL draft happened a couple of weeks ago. I didn't really pay attention to it. I don't know any of the players other than the guy who was picked first. But turns out one of the players picked, I think in the either late in the first round or early in the second round, happens to be a Jewish kid from Vancouver. He was drafted by the Washington Capitals. So, of course, the Canadian Jewish News is very excited about this and did a story on him. His name is Andrew Cristal. I think I'm pronouncing that properly.
Okay.
I never heard of him, but I did read the story in the Canadian Jewish News because someone sent me a link to it. And I just want to read you one line from the story. Because, you know, you've read articles about kids who've been drafted many, many times, I'm sure. Whether it's hockey, baseball, football, basketball, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, this is the Canadian Jewish News. And while his favorite Jewish food is challah, with matzo ball soup as a close second. That's the whole quote.
That's the whole quote?
I mean, there's more, but the rest of the sentence doesn't matter. I just wanted to read that part because I thought it was quite funny.
But why do you find that so fascinating? I mean,
I don't care what his favorite food is. This is a story about a kid who was drafted into the NHL. Maybe talk about, you know, how many goals he scored in junior, or, you know, do you think he'll make the team this year? You know, his favorite food is challah. I just thought it was funny.
The Canadian Jewish News, they're trying to, I mean, if you got drafted and they asked you, I guess you would say bagels, right?
I would say bagels, yes, actually. But, like, I wouldn't expect them to ask me that question.
All right. Beautiful. Well, we wish him luck. I hope he makes the team.
As do I.
Well, it was great talking to you. I love our little quiz format of movie quotes. Maybe we should try to incorporate like the quiz aspect whenever we can, you know?
It's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, I love your picks. I love your list was great. You really surprised me. Honestly, you really did.
We had none the same, which was great.
Yeah, I love that. And I wish you a great week. I'll speak to you next time.
Have a good week.